Now we are set up. Hello, good morning, and welcome to this orientation session. I am your holistic nutrition practitioner. My name is Luca Simmons. I raise my cup to you this morning. Bonjour, Happy New Year. I hope that your 2024 is a year of delicious things, a year of good adventures, and pockets of peace to help remind you of the magic that is around you and that is within you. À votre santé. Lovely to see your face, cyberly or so, or watching this after the fact. All is good. So I'm glad you're here. This whole session is the first of the month. I call it the orientation session, and it is I do this usually on the first, obviously the second for January, where we talk about what the Good Food Network looks like. And to give you a sense, there's two reasons for this. To give you a sense, if you're not in the network, is this something you might want to join? And you want to get a better idea of what is on offer, I suppose, what's available to dive into in the network. And number two, for anybody who's new to joining the network, where do you find everything? So it serves a double purpose that way. So we're going to start first with, how do you know if the Good Food Network is for you? Now, every 2 months, I shift focus, and our focus, as always, has to do with wellness. And it's health and wellness through the lens of nutrition, through the lens of pointed nutrition, as a matter of fact, like even more than just food. We're talking about deep nutrition. We're talking about those foods that help build that resiliency, and not just the foods themselves, but the types of food, the frequency of food, how we approach cooking, how we approach eating, how we approach shopping, and way more than that. Of course, we always talk about lifestyle ideas as well, and how everything is interconnected. So if you're somebody who likes to really understand how different things are interconnected, and how, for example, interesting, if I have type 2 diabetes, or I'm hypoglycemic a lot of the times, or I struggle with my blood sugar balancing, why this could long-term set you up to have a higher incidence of developing Alzheimer's and dementia. If you want to understand the why and the biochemistry that's involved here, that's the kind of content you will get in the Good Food Network. So my name is Luca. I have been a holistic nutrition practitioner since graduating in the fall of 2014 from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. I love what I do. I have always been about inflammation, and along the way have taken deep dives into lots of different, very specific topics, one of which is histamine and mast cell activation. I'm one of two over at Histamine Haven, and at HHHQ, as I like to call it, we also wrote a book. So I wrote a book. So we talk a lot about histamine, and histamine happens to be a neurotransmitter. What's a neurotransmitter? It's a compound that has the potential of triggering or making something happen in your brain or nervous system. So we're certainly going to touch on histamine as we dive into the month of January and February. Every 2 months, we do a new topic. January 1st, brand new topic. We're doing brain and nervous system. I've never done brain. I've never done nervous system. We've done mood for 1 month about a year ago. But I think brain and nervous system is going to be a really interesting dive. There's a lot of new stuff available in the network this month. So I'm excited to share that with you. Something that's only available in the network, and I haven't run in, what did I figure out yesterday? 6 or 7 years. I revamped a whole course that I used to run 7 years ago, and we'll get into that in a second. Now, let's talk first about, let me get this ready. Let me start over. How do you know if you have an issue in your brain or your nervous system? Or I'll take that one step further. How do you know that you need to put in some protective detail to help protect your brain and nervous system? So we're going to look at this in two different ways. First off, I'm going to give you top 10. I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to jot down a check mark or a number 1 and tell me how many you get by the end of this list of 10. And then we'll dive into more. Don't worry. So first things first, do you have a family history of Alzheimer's or dementia or any type of cognitive decline? Add an extra check mark if you yourself have been diagnosed with some of the early signs of this. Number 2, do you struggle with mood or do you struggle with anxiety or worries? Yeah, you could use some nutrition for the brain. Number 3, do you struggle with brain fog? Is it worse on certain days of the month? Is it worse at certain times of the day? Is it kind of a constant, like, oh God, how do I get to the answer of what I'm looking for? Like, is that your day-to-day life? Number 4, are you yourself or somebody in your care working with neurodivergence? What do I mean by neurodivergence? ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia. Those are going to be the most, I suppose, most common ones that we might find. But neurodivergence means you are seeing the world and working through the world differently than others. And the gifts you bring are amazing. But there's some nutrient deficiencies that are correlated with some of these diagnoses. I think it's actually, you are a marvel of evolution. So you're not broken, there's nothing wrong. But if we give deep nutrition, could it ease and help improve the anxiety that's associated with neurodivergence? And could it make things a little bit easier for you to get through your day? Yeah. Number 5. This is a surprise one. Do you struggle with constipation or diarrhea? Luca, what does that have to do with my brain and my nervous system? Well, I'll tell you. Do you know that when they were starting to develop medications and pharmaceuticals to help support constipation, what they found was that it actually helped alleviate depression. And when they went in to develop formulations and different kinds of pharmaceuticals to address anxiety, turns out it was helping reduce IBS type things where there's a lot of diarrhea. What? Yeah. Do you know that what's happening in your gut has an absolute resonance in this part of the body, in the brain and the nervous system? So if you struggle with constipation or diarrhea, persistent, like we're talking all the time, I'm worried about your mental health, first of all. And second of all, that connection is a part of what we will be honing in on and really working on in these next 2 months. Yes. Number 6, do you have blood sugar balancing issues? Do you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes? Do you know that the incidence of developing Alzheimer's and dementia rises with a type 2 diagnosis, type 2 diabetes diagnosis? Hypoglycemic metabolic syndrome, those are all potential drivers of some of the damage that can impact and drive that dementia and Alzheimer's, or contribute to it. Yep. Number 7, have you ever worked through a concussion, been involved in a motor vehicle accident? Yes. Or had head trauma? Yes. All of these compounds and different things that we will be talking about in these next 2 months on the brain and the nervous system would be of benefit to you till the end of February 2024. Okay, that's number 7. Number 8, do you struggle with persistent low fatigue or low energy, where it's kind of all the time? Your brain and your nervous system are having a hard time, potentially. Not 100% all the time, but certainly when I see people struggling with persistent low energy and really low fatigue, then I wonder how the nervous system is doing, because it will also feel the impact of that. You know, it starts with fatigue and then it starts to show up in the nervous system. So we'll be talking about how to support that. Number 9, do you have any type of main diagnosis that impacts your brain or your nerves? I mean, that's an obvious one, but perhaps it's not obvious. I want to make sure that everybody who needs access to this knows what's going to be at play here. So anybody who struggles with things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, ALS, if there's a family history of any of these, and any kind of nervous system disruption that's going on, where your nerves are struggling, where your brain is struggling, your cognitive function, your memory, everything that the brain has to work with. The brain actually resolves or sets up your mood, right? That's why we include the mood in the top 10. So if you have or are caring for someone who has a neurodegenerative condition, so some condition that impacts the brain and the nervous system, or the nervous system. All right, number 10, final one. Do you get nerve tingling? Do you get pain or any type of chronic pain? Now we are talking about the nervous system responding to something. And this is what we will really be diving into in this long month, 2 months actually, January and February 2024, looking at the brain and the nervous system. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by looking at deep nutrition to best flourish, help these organs flourish, and the function that all of these organs do. I think of these organs as they run through recipes. And do they have all the ingredients they need for each and every single recipe? If they're missing any ingredients, they struggle with those recipes, and now they can't do those things they're supposed to, the different parts of the nervous system. So we'll be talking about that deep nutrition to make sure you have all of the ingredients for all of your recipes. We'll be talking also about how to bring in that protective detail, what that entails, what that looks like in order to help support the brain and the nervous system and do that protective bit. And then we're going to also talk about how stress impacts all of this and how looking after the brain and the nervous system and nourishing it can be just another way of creating that biochemical safety in the body. And when we do that, now we reduce the amount of stress our body's under and we reduce that inflammation load. So this is everything that we're going to be covering in January and February here in the Good Food Network. Is this something you struggle with? How many check marks did you get from those top 10? Okay, I'm going to add to this now. That's your top 10. Do you know there's way more? Of course, there's way more, Luca. I just don't want to overwhelm people, but here we go. Are you ready for overwhelm? First things first, you're not broken. You are working marvelously. Your body has a high burden of stress if you have said yes to any of these top 10 or any of the other ones we're going to go through now. So understand that the higher your burden of stress is, your personal burden of stress is, the more there is the potential of impacting your brain and your nervous system. What is that internal burden of stress? It's the combination of stress from the outside world. Price of cell phones, it feels like it's always going up. Pesticides at the park down the street, can't control it. Will I have a job on Tuesday? Those outside stressors we think of as like when somebody mentions the word stress. There's internal stress. That's biochemistry of things not working as they should. So if you can't digest well, if you have blood sugar imbalance issues, if you have hormonal imbalances, if you have a chronic disease of sorts, it stokes the inflammatory response. The more you stoke the inflammatory response, the more you throw everything else off because your body is in repair mode in that moment. So good work, body. Is your body always having to do repair? How about we turn the need to do repair off? Like we just provide everything so that you don't have to do repair. That's part of the goal. So much of what we'll be doing in the network is that internal stress part. But there's the emotional stress as well, which is anything to do with relationships. So I think of if you're caring for an elder or a child who have special needs, if you have a spouse and they need a lot of support or care, if you yourself need a lot of care, if there's any type of trauma or trauma history in yourself or in your lineage, actually. Also talking about difficult relationships, like do you have hard, strained relationships at work? Is it difficult in the home? Is there a history of violence in your home or the home you grew up in? There's a lot of different ways that that emotional stressor can be contributing, but understand that there's kind of these 3 different types of stress, and all of them add up to your total burden of stress. And that total burden of stress is, unfortunately, what drives the inflammation response in the body and has the potential of driving things like brain and nervous system issues. So on that note, how many more check marks can we add to your list? It's not a competition and I will always win. No, I won't always win. I don't care. Chronic disease is another one. Do you struggle with a chronic disease? Add another check mark to your list. Do you have any type of inflammation that you know of? Like, I think most people think of inflammation as pain in joints, but I'm going to add to that. If you have any kind of skin stuff, if you have eczema, rashes, acne, rosacea, those types of things, that's inflammatory in nature. If you have any kind of diagnosis with itis at the end, itis, itis is Latin for inflammation. Do you have any kind of cognitive decline? We've talked about that already. Yeah, chronic pain stuff around your period where it's really difficult. Histamine issues, mast cell activation issues are all inflammation driven. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you have an autoimmune condition that is also driving the inflammation response? And histamine and mast cells. Okay, I said that already. Now, what other ones? Do you struggle with headaches or migraines on a regular basis? That's a brain and nervous system issue. And as we dive into the content this month, you'll get more of those solutions. Yay. Do you have any changes in vision? Changes in vision can be a really big indicator that the brain and the nervous system is now feeling a big impact. Where I see this a lot is in women who are going through that perimenopausal shift into menopause. There's a really big shift in eye health. This can be a telltale sign that now the inflammation is ramping up. And yeah, if you're moving into menopause, if you had a bit of inflammation beforehand, menopause kind of really highlights and says, yeah, inflammation is in fact here. I'm seeing it myself, my eye vision totally changing. I tell you, I'm working on it. Struggling with anxiety or depression. We talked about mood struggles before. I wanted to be a bit more specific. What about mental disorders? Things like schizophrenia, bipolar depression, personality disorders, OCD, I will add to that, post-traumatic stress disorder, those types of conditions or diagnoses. I have had 5 of them myself in my whole life. Don't love them, but they were a big fat indicator that something was going on and I needed to address it. And man, oh man, if nutrition actually hasn't personally been a massive lifeline in reducing actually my need for medication for any of those things. I had OCD, generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar depression. What was the 5th one? There were 5, I can't remember. I was in a high stress situation at the time. I was at a job that was really, really, really stressful. There was a lot of animosity and racism going on at our place of work, and it was an absolute mess. No one working there was doing well. We were all in a mess, all of us. So it was quite situational at the time, but man, oh man, I was more susceptible to some of those symptoms due to the inflammation I had been working through since I was a baby. Yeah, fun times. Do you have a degenerative nerve condition like ALS or Parkinson's? So we've talked about that briefly. Or MS, multiple sclerosis is another one. Have you ever been diagnosed with brain cancer? Are you recovering from brain cancer? Or is there a history of brain cancer in your family? We will give you some pieces to support you. Do you have chronic pain issues like fibromyalgia? What about chronic fatigue syndrome? These are all an indicator that your brain or your nervous system are being impacted from the downwards effect of inflammation for a long time. And now we need to do that deep nutrition for these pieces to have what they need, but also reduce that inflammation that's leading to that condition. Have you ever struggled with seizures or been diagnosed with epilepsy? We will have some content in the network for you. Autoimmune conditions in the brain or the nervous system. So those are, there's Sjogren's. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's like a nerve pain thing. That's an autoimmune condition. There's many others. I won't get into it because we may impact one person out of the 4 who watch. Okay. Memory. Is your memory struggling? Are you starting to forget pieces? And is that a part of the picture of brain fog for you? Oh, well, then you're going to want to join us in the network because we need to start putting in some solutions right now. Some of these are early indicators that we need some support in the brain and nervous system. Some of them are an indicator that you've been in inflammation for a long time, and now we need to nurse deeply and put up a protective detail to help maintain the vitality of your brain and nervous system. What else do we have? A couple others. So insomnia. Insomnia can certainly have a root piece in the brain and the nervous system. It can often be a histamine induced kind of problem. We just did 2 months on sleep. So for anybody who was in the network in November and December, then we're going to continue on. This is kind of the part 2 of looking after sleep troubles. So hello and welcome back. Yeah. Other things, we've got autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia we talked about. And I will add to this IBS and IBD. That's the constipation and brain connection, and the diarrhea and the brain connection. So it's so interesting how all of this is really, really quite interconnected. So how many check marks did you check off? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you said yes to 3 or more, you're going to get really, really good value in the network this month and next month. And, if you're catching this on February 10th, 2024, you can still join us. You get instant access as soon as you enter the Good Food Network. And so you can get into the content that's there. A lot of the content will span the 2 months. The weekly content that comes out stays only for the month, and then we start up again in the next month. So you can think of it that way. So I want to take you through for a tour of the network so that you can see what it looks like, because this is part 2 of what this whole orientation call is for. Is this for you? 1 check and maybe 2. Oh, Chantal, well, you're going to do okay in putting in some of these supports. I will add to this. Let's add 1 more check. Do you want to support brain and memory and cognitive function as you age? You should be in the network. That is actually the biggest yes to joining the network and being a part of what's going to happen in the network. So let's take you for a tour of what you would have access to once you join. So when you join the network, you get instant access to the content. It's a little tricky to get there. Once you're there, you're totally fine. I will tell you, the way to log into the network is to go to, not this page, but just a second, lucasimmons.com. Continue on to website. Once you're on my website, if you scroll down, every single page on my website has a button down here that says log into Client Hub. So that's where you're going to start. You clock in there, and then you'll put in your password. If it's the first time you're joining me, then it will be an interesting little journey where you have to create a password for it. And the emails will walk you through how to do all of those steps. So follow the emails and the websites you're taken to in the succession if this is the first time you're joining us. Once you've created your password and you're in, this is what the hub looks like. I call it the hub, and you'll know it's mine because it has Good Food and You begins at home at top left. Typically, sometimes it says the words better. Depends how you logged in. If you log in from the links I give you, then you'll get the logo up top left. One thing to know, the logo top left is your home button. So if you click on this, it takes you to your home page from wherever you are on the hub. So know that. Now, first things first, if you want to get to the network, you're going to click on programs right here, top left. And here we've got GF Network. That's the network. This is what you want to get into. So if you'll click on that, it takes you to the network. And this is where all of the content is. One of the things to know, where your cursor is where you'll be able to scroll. So I'm scrolling through this little section menu on the left. Here, I'm scrolling through the image. Here, I'm scrolling through the modules. So you need to know where you are on your screen to be able to scroll through those modules. So here, we've got everything in the network. So there's a lot. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to know that there's a lot to get through, but that you will handpick what it is you want to get through. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. So we've got the content here that's kind of the administrative content, where it's about what the topic is, what our schedule and checklist will look like. Then we have 3 versions or 3 ways I think of the content in the network. There's the live sessions that happen live, a replay for each one. There's the pre-recorded content, which is kind of the streaming service, if you will. So we've got 3 in there. We'll go through those in a minute. And then we've got just written content. So this is printables. So those are the 3 different categories of things you will find in the Good Food Network. Let's start at the top and get into what the network does. So when you're first in, I want you to start at Start Here Kitten, obviously. So there is a welcome video with another training in there if you need to. And then a lot more information. The orientation call replay that you're watching right now will be, the link is in there. And then we've got all of these different parts as well that give you the rundown of what you can include or what's included in the Good Food Network. So Start Here Kitten gives you sort of the orientation to what's available in the network. The ones I want to highlight for you, so all about your network subscription. So if you have any questions in regards to the subscription itself, this is where you're going to get some of your answers. So go through there if you have any questions. What I want to start you with, though, is the schedule and checklist. So once you've done that start here, kitten, now you go to schedule and checklist. And this is where you get started. So I have the live calendar here. I have a printable version here where you would hit download to your computer, and then you would print from your downloads folder. So this has just the live sessions. So our schedule for January of just those live classes, we have the Thursday morning things, and we have one live class this month on Wednesday, the 17th. We'll go through that in a second. And then there's the orientation call, which is what we're currently doing right now. So there is at least one live session a week, sometimes two, as you can see, and that's it. Now, this is going to be your new best friend, this checklist. So this is the checklist for the month. This is what it looks like, and you can do a printable version there. And I changed it so it's now a white background so that you don't waste ink in your computer. Sorry, it took me a year to learn that. Yeah, or 4 months, however long it took me to put these together. So the checklist is meant for you to use as your planning tool for the month. So here we have all the moving pieces to the network. So we've got the schedule and worksheet. We've got a main topic on the brain. There's a real food reset video. What do you mean by real food? There's a vitality brain class. There's a scratch cooking class on fermentation. Those are all the pre-recorded things. Then we have the live classes. We've got the January 17th class. Then we've got the printables at the bottom. I'm realizing now these should be in the same order as they are in the network. I will work on that for February. You learn something every month. So listen, all of these, what you want to do, once you print this up, you take a peek and you go, I only have an hour a week, or decide how much time you have every week. Minimum 1 hour a week. Make it the same time every week. Make it Tuesday night if that's what works for you. Make it Sunday morning if that works for you. Make it Sunday night that this is your date night with yourself. Like set a time every week so it's the same time every week, so you commit to at least an hour, because there's a lot of content. And I am offering you a smorgasbord, right? I use this analogy every month, and I mean it every month. When you go to buffet, right? So here in Calgary, our family quite likes going to the Chinese food buffet for big celebrations. Somebody graduating, you know, something like that. So when we go to the buffet, there's 8 of us, and we each go up to the buffet, and not a single one of us takes everything off of the buffet. And if you look at my plate, if you look at my daughter's plate, if you look at my nephew's plate, if you look at my mother-in-law's plate, we all have different things on our plate because we all like different things. So I want you to treat the network that way. It's a buffet, baby. It's a buffet, baby. So pick what it is that you want to get into. So what you do at this point, once you printed it up, is you say, all right, well, I'm going to prioritize. What is it that I really want to do? Well, I'm going to tell you this Vitality Brain class is the gold nugget of the whole network. So this is the class you want to get into. It's that Vitality Brain class that's going to explain how to know if you have an issue in the brain and nervous system, what is contributing to it, and how do you help build your protective detail to reduce the impact on your nervous system? So this helps give you that deep understanding to know in your particular situation what could be making things not working well in your brain and nervous system. And then you get into your solutions. So this you're going to put, oh, this is item number 1. I want to watch this. So use this space in the column on the left to put in order what are the ones you want to do. So number 1, put Vitality Brain. And go through all of these. I'll go through them one by one in the module so you can see what they all are. But decide, make this your first course of action for the month. Print up the worksheet and organize by number on the left side of this little box what the order is that you're going to watch them in. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 of them. So write 1 to 10. So once you've printed up the worksheet and the checklist here, oh, look, you can just hit check mark already because you've already done it. So this is number 1, I suppose. And then Vitality Brain will be number 2. And then I want you to choose the ones you don't even want to do. For example, there's an Eating with the Seasons handout and recipes, and it was a new one in December. So for all my Good Food Network people who were in December, who are now carrying over into January, you've already done this one. So just cross it out. Like now you only have 9 things to look after this month. You're welcome. So that sort of thing. I want you to go through here and put in the order you want on the left. Once you've done them, just check mark so that you know you've done them, and leave that by your computer or on the chalkboard or on the corkboard near where you're watching these videos in your office, or I don't know, in the kitchen, wherever you settle in to watch this content. And that way you'll be able to keep track of what you've done, and you'll be able to, when you come back to it next Sunday night at 7 p.m., you'll say, oh yeah, okay, I'm halfway through that Vitality Brain class. I'm going to finish it tonight. Awesome. Okay. So that's that second piece here in the module. The third piece, keep scrolling down, right? Always scroll down to the bottom so that you know where you are. So when you scroll down, the worksheet for the month, this is a new thing I added in the fall. This helps you keep track of the content of the network and it's a 1-page cheat sheet to do, if you will. This is like your worksheet. It's not like, it is your worksheet. So here we've got the topic is brain with January 2024. At the end of going through this network content, I want you to prioritize 3, 4, or 5 things that you want to tend to over the course of the month. And you build it as you go. You might not add number 3 until week 4. That's cool. But you're going to add your to-do things from the content you're catching. So for example, our first class, we do a Thursday morning live class. It's called Food is Medicine. This week, we're talking fats and brain health. And we'll talk about how important fats are and which fats are good, which fats are bad. As we go through that 25, 30-minute session, you'll be like, oh my God, those fats are bad? Oh my gosh, my first action item, get rid of those poor fats. So now you have your to-do list, right? So you are actively participating in it. You have to build this worksheet. And of the 15 people we have in the network this month, every person is going to have a different worksheet. Everybody needs something different. You individualize the content to your particular situation. You're in charge of you, baby. You are the boss of you. So be a boss in the gentlest way possible. So I want you in this worksheet, this can be one of the first pieces you tend to. What are the main goals this month? What do you want to address or work at this month, and why or how it shows up in my body? That's a lot of the stuff you'll get from watching that Vitality Brain class. So by the end of that, you'll say, oh, my main goal is to really look after my brain. And I need to do that through deep nutrition, supporting the gut, improving detoxification, reducing inflammation, addressing my blood sugars. You're going to know what your particular driver is going to be when you watch that class. Awesome. As you go through the sessions, now you've got your action items and you build them. So we've got the food section here, and we've got lifestyle and more. So these are foods I want to feature and why. You can just jot down really short form. Action items for lifestyle and more. So lifestyle ideas I want to incorporate and further steps I want to take. So topics or courses or any other thing that you've come across where you're like, oh, it's really clear to me now that I have blood sugar balance issues. I really need to address blood sugar balance. So if that is clear to you, I want you to highlight that there. So this helps you make it your own. Use the worksheet, honey. Use the worksheet. This is your superpower. This helps guide you through the content of the network. And if you say by February, you're like, I'm still going to work on the brain and nervous system. Luca's stopping the network of brain stuff and she's moving into something new. I still want to work on my brain stuff. Well, you got your worksheet. You've got your worksheet and you can commit to that for as long as you want to at implementing those ideas. And this, because all that content disappears at the end of February, now you have your cheat sheet of what to do. And they're really simple, forward thinking, easy to incorporate things into your day. What the network provides you is the reasons why and the deep comprehension. Now your to-do is a simple one sheet. And over time, you start to build these sheets that make it really simple. If you stick around for 2 months, you'll get 2 worksheets to support your brain and nervous system. Each of the 2 worksheets will be a little bit different. This first part might be the same, but your action items for food and lifestyle are different. And you're adding at least one a week. That's your goal at the end of the week here in the Good Food Network. Okay, so then just a bit more information here. La, 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 la. Okay. So once you're done this checklist and the schedule, I want you to use this button top right to say mark completed. So what this mark completed means is, okay, it takes you here to see your progress. And now you can go back to my program. Boop. So here I've completed my schedule and checklist. So the next time I log in, I will know that I've already done this piece. I don't need to go back in. So we're going to do this a little bit backwards because I want to take you through the easy stuff first so that you can mark it completed. If you keep scrolling down to the bottom, you see here we've got written content. This is the easiest stuff to knock off your list. So let me just say, start here maybe. I mean, I'm giving you lots of options, but I want this to be really easy. So we've got recipes of the month, a weekly food challenge, and eating with the seasons for the winter season. So let's start with recipes of the month. Every month I have 5 recipes. They are all to do with the brain and the nervous system. So these are our recipes this month. You've got all printable versions. We talk about histamine for those who have histamine issues. And you open these, you download to your computer, and you print them up and you add them to a binder in the kitchen. And these get renewed the first of the month. And now these are the same recipes that go out in my recipe subscription service, because some folks don't want to do the full network. They just want the recipes. That's an option as well. So once you've printed them up, click on Mark Completed. Yes, I want to confirm that this module is completed. And it's telling me all the things I've done already, which is so great. So it marks them completed. So you can go in and jump to these modules. I prefer to go back to my program because this makes more sense to me. All right, so I printed out my recipes. Oh, what is that weekly food challenge? Well, on the socials, every week I post a good food challenge of the week. This week's challenge is to eat some walnuts. So I haven't posted it. It's going out a little bit later today, but it will be to eat walnuts this week. And then this links out to the social media post, not yet available because I haven't actually posted it yet because it's still a bit early in the day. And then in the network, I take it a step further. So I give you ideas on how to work in the food of the week. So for this week, we're talking about walnuts. Walnuts are amazing because they're anti-inflammatory. So they really help to reduce the damaging impact to your brain and nerve cells. They are high in omega-6, and omega-6 helps the connections between your neurons better so that they can better talk to each other and get some of that work done. They're also really high in polyphenols. And so we talk about polyphenols. We also talk about walnuts as providers of melatonin, naturally so. And when you consume, that can potentially give you a leg up to better be able to sleep at night. And sleep is one of those crucial things you need for the brain and nervous system health. So I give you ideas. You don't get these in the socials, but you get them in the network. Different ideas maybe you might want to try. Sometimes I link out to recipes. Sometimes I will have recipes in the recipes of the month to highlight some of these ingredients. I don't think there's any walnuts this month. No, not in any of the recipes. Walnuts are actually quite high histamine, so I don't tend to feature them often in recipes because I work a lot with histamine people. But anyway, here's some ideas. And then as we go through the week, the earlier challenges will all be lower here. So keep scrolling on down. I mean, there's none yet because we're just still in the first week. Okay, so that's the weekly challenge. How do I go back? There we go. Going back down to the written content. So we looked at the recipes, we looked at the weekly food challenge. There's one last one. So I often talk about eating with the seasons. And when we eat in accordance with the season, we're doing a lot to support the natural biochemistry of the body. The more we can support the natural biochemistry of the body, which involves being in sync with the seasons. When you eat in season, you support the body reducing inflammation. Yeah. So there's a little video here that can explain why eating with the seasons is important. It's the same video. If you've watched it already, skip it. But if you're new to the network, start there. Here we have a handout And we have a recipe bundle. So the handout for that winter recipe, or what, how to eat with the seasons, here we've got a checklist and a chart of those foods best suited to consuming in the winter. Got a list of superfoods, teas, roots and shoots, herbs and spices, why we're looking after the kidneys and the adrenals in the months of winter, and the bones as another supporter. Main organ for the seasons, yep, and main energy for the seasons. So we're going within, we're tending your inner light through this darkness. That's why I'm doing the brain. It's an obvious piece to support at this time of year. Yeah. And then 5 things to think about for the winter season. So going back to that worksheet that we just went through, that you're going to be printing up and writing down what are my to-do pieces, this can give you some of those starter pieces. You right here, for example, winter, the cold and dark season, is the time of inward reflection, rest, and restoration. Consider meditation or gratitude practice, yoga, reading, crafting, napping. Oh, you know what? I get a big fat yes with, I want to do reading every night before I go to bed. Well, that's the first thing you're going to write on your worksheet. Read before bed. Oh, hi, you already have your to-do work. So that's the kind of thing that we get into in the network that you can put into play. If you're like, I already do this, I don't need to add this to my routine, Luca. Oh, okay. Then go through this. Reduce your consumption of cold foods for the season. Reduce your consumption of raw foods. Wow, I eat a lot of salads. Oh, so in my food ideas, I'm going to say in winter, reduce raw. Notice I don't say cut it out entirely. Let's not be brash. Take your easy, pals, and go with the flow. Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that you can get in this winter module. We've got a bunch of recipes as well. There's recipes at every turn. Yes. So the recipe subscription people do not get these, but those in the network do. So there you go. There's benefits to everything. Okay, so now we've gone through that module. Now let's go back to the written content. We did the recipes, we did the weekly food challenge, and we did the eating with the seasons winter. So once you're comfortable with the content in there and you're like, I don't necessarily need to go back, check mark completed in that top right corner. And I'll tell you, you can still go back and view it. Obviously, you hit here, view, and it takes you back to the module. So even though you mark it completed, it doesn't mean you can't access the module again. It's more for you to have that, the successful feeling of, yeah, I did something. Check it off the list, baby. And for those people who are like, oh God, I forget where I was last month. Oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Oh, now I need to go in and do this guy. Yeah. Okay, so that's the written content. We're back at the top. So this is your all administrative stuff. I want to take you through the main topic. So we really dive into the brain. This is all written content. I realize it's 2024. Most people will probably prefer to have this in video content. And maybe if I have more time in my life in 6 months, I might turn that. But right now it's all written content. So supporting your brain is a crucial cornerstone to reducing your own personal burden of stress. It's your brain and your nervous system that trigger the stress response in the body. The more we can fortify and really support your brain, the more we can turn off the stress response in the body, the more we can reduce inflammation. Nourishing and looking after your nervous system helps you better move through the stress response and turn it off. Stress response is life-preserving, life-giving, but we don't want it on all the time. We want to turn it off, and we want to go to it only when we need it. Yeah. So our goal is to support longevity, ensure vibrancy for your brain, your entire nervous system health. So this goes into a little bit more of why you may want to look after your brain and nervous system. So all that list of symptoms that I listed, it's all included here. So you can go through this list yourself. I have to add type 2 diabetes to this, which I added, I realized afterwards. Anyway. And here we've got what it is that we're going to be doing in the network, what the work becomes, what that looks like, and why. Why is this important? And why, when we support the metabolic side of your body's function, now we're going to be reducing what's driving issues showing up in the brain and nervous system. So yeah, we're going to love up the brain and the nervous system, but we need to do the other stuff that like the trouble in your brain and nervous system is the end result of issues going on in the center of your body with other things going on, not working well. If we repair these, now the impact will be not felt as much in your brain and nervous system. So let's nurse the brain and nervous system to fortify it, but let's reduce what's driving the issues too. And that's what this whole module explains. It gets really into the, oh, this is why I am connected to everything. This is why I'm a closed loop system. That's why I need to look after my gut. This is right. I need to look after my blood sugar balancing. I need to do all these pieces. So where to start? This gives you ideas on where to start. That Vitality Brain class will take you to it. So once you're done this month's content, hit mark completed once you've read it. I'm going to leave it up because I still need it for February when I'll be doing this video again. Okay, now let's get into the live sessions. So we've got 2 live sessions. We have the Thursday morning sessions. They're called Food as Medicine. So we're doing it brain, of course, in January. This gives you a bit of info on it. Here are the topics we'll be covering. So in January, we've got 4 Thursday mornings. We're going to be doing fats and brain health on the 4th. Next week, we'll be doing 3 top herbs and spices for the brain health. On January 18th, we'll be talking about choline. Yeah, this is like the nutrient you never knew you needed. That is quite possibly one of the most important nutrients for brain and nervous system health, and especially for your nerves and memory consolidation. And for anybody who has blood sugar imbalances too, it's all connected. And then on the 25th, we will do a session to support those who are struggling with mood, whether it is whether it is low moods or anxieties or worries that is driving things for you. Now, every time I do a session, I record them. So what I'm doing now, you used to click here and you could go out to watch a video on YouTube, but now I'm actually just putting the video directly below. So once it's done, you'll see a big video here, and then you could just watch the replay in here. And they're all about 25 to 30 minutes long. So that's the Food is Medicine weekly sessions as part of our live content. Going back to our live sessions, we have 1 live 90-minute class every month. This month, we are doing it on Wednesday, January 17th at 9 a.m. Alberta time on Zoom. And we are doing it on loving your brain via your gut. So we're going to talk about that connection between your brain and your gut, and how your gut is really your second brain, and how your nervous system terminates, the last nerve of your brain terminates in the gut. Did you know that? Did you know that you have a whole nervous system in your gut? It's called the enteric nervous system. We'll be talking about the enteric nervous system and why you're so closely connected between the gut and the brain, and why when issues are showing up in the brain and in the nervous system, it's actually a gut issue. Yeah, the brain is feeling the effects of it, but the issue itself is actually in the guts. So we'll be doing that. Now, some people take this class by itself, which is awesome. The class itself by itself is $25. The network is $35. So in the network, you not only get this class, you get everything else. So it's a really good deal to be in the network. So once it's done, then there's a replay available here, and there's handouts and recipes. And once I've got those ready, they'll be here. I don't usually do them until a week before. All right, so those are the 2 live sessions for the month, the 2 types of live sessions. Now let's go to the streaming stuff. So this is the access whenever you want content, that pre-recorded content. We have 3 things. I'm going to tell you what they are. They are all older stuff that I've done in different capacities that are pre-recorded sessions that you have access to, that I curate specifically in relation to what the topic is. So the Real Food Reset is what I first started doing on Hub in 2019 when I first built it. And the Real Food Reset had 10 modules, actually 12 in the end, that were all about different ways of making real food your friend and making your kitchen your ally. So we're starting from scratch in January. So if you're just joining the network now, oh, you're in at the beginning stages. So we've done a full run through of the 12 modules now for the last year and a bit. Now we're getting into the start again. So we're kicking things off again. So we're going to be taking a full year this year. I've tried to really break it down so we start anew in January. So this first module is part of the first, I kind of broken into 3 parts, the practical. So we're doing what is real food, the concept of GERF, and real food resources. So this is a really nice beginner module. So this is disappearing at the end of January. Make sure you set some time aside to watch it in good time. So what exactly do you mean by real food? This is a 30-minute class, and then you just get into it and watch that video there. There is a handout and recipes. So you've got some handouts here, and you've got some recipes as well. I've got a low histamine version in there for those who need it. So this is one of those modules that you could tend to this month or prioritize for the month of January because it's going to disappear at the end of the month. Once you're done, click on Mark Completed. Bing bong. I'm done. I feel so good. Even if you're like, I'm just going to print the handouts, Luca. I'm not going to watch the thing because I already do real food. Well, then it's completed for you, isn't it? Whether or not you watch the video, you're the boss of you. I'm not keeping track of you. I'm not your mom. That's Eliza. I would do that for Eliza. I won't do that for you. So going back to those pre-recorded content, we just went through this one, the real food reset. What do you mean by real food? And I marked it completed. I didn't watch the actual video. I pretended I printed the things out. Yeah. Now we've got 2 more to go. So we've got the vitality class and the scratch cooking class. So vitality classes I started back in 2016, and I started them for a group in Cremona, and they wanted a 2-hour class on different topics and how to nourish that body part, for example. So it was a really great jumping off point and springboard for me to develop a vitality class for so many different organs. So I've done a vitality gut, vitality inflammation, vitality adrenals, vitality blood sugar balancing, vitality liver, vitality histamines, vitality bones, vitality heart, thyroid. I can't remember. I've done a lot. The brain is one that I only ran twice. I built it. No, I ran it 3 times. I ran it twice for the group in Cremona, and I ran it once for the light seller. But there was never a slideshow. The handout was really dense and complicated and jumped all over the place. So I took the month of December to clean it up and make it brand new. So the only place you can find this class right now is in the network. I don't have it available for lifetime access yet, like I do all my other vitality classes. So the only place you'll find this is in the network. So we're talking Vitality Brain. This is what it looks like. And then we've got the handouts and recipes. So you print up your handout, and that takes you through all of the 13 videos. I've broken it down into smaller chunks so you can take your time through it, and it's easy for you to jump back into it. One thing I will tell you, when you're going through this in the handout, right? So you've got a list of foods. I do a chart of foods for every class. Teas, flavors, and superb foods. Here on the bottom, you're going to see these 13 numbers, and it looks funny. But I'll tell you, when you print this up, once you've watched module 1 or video 1, mark it, put an X in it so you know you've watched it. So that when you come next time to watch the next video, you know you need to start at video number 2. So it helps you keep track of the videos, because I realize 13 feels like a lot. Some of them are short, some of them are long. So you get to take your time through it, and I've got them all labeled up just above the video. So video 1, welcome. Video 2, get to know your brain and nervous system. Why this is all about inflammation. How do you know if your brain or nervous system is having a hard time? When the brain is struggling, what is going on? This helps you identify what it is to your particular situation. That's 20 minutes worth of your life. That's going to give you years of your life later. I'm just saying. Where does inflammation start? Blood sugar balancing, and why this is actually one of the key pieces to look at. And then we get into the 5 strategies. So strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3, strategy 4, strategy 5. And then we get into the recipes and a recap. So we get into the foods and the recipes that come in your handout. So lots of content in here, some links out that will make sense once you've watched some of that content. So make sure as you're going through the content, scroll right down to the bottom. Always scroll to the bottom. I've always got a bit of extra at the bottom. So make sure you make your way through all of this. And once you're done watching the class, click Mark Completed. That's the biggest piece of the network, and that is the most important piece. I'm going to tell you, to have lifetime access to it, that class is will be $60. You're getting access to it for 2 months for $35. along with everything else. So the price is right, but you got to get on it. And I do that to light a fire under your butt so you actually get through the content. So I motivate you by giving you a timeline. When you join the network, this particular class, the brain class, is going to be there in January and February. This, what do you mean by real food, is only there in January. The scratch cooking class is only there in January. So let's look at what that is. So this was a scratch cooking class I did with my kiddo when the pandemic started. And we did it for a group of junior high kids at her junior high school, rather. And we did a class a week for 10 weeks. We had a riot. We had such a fun time. So we did a class on fermentation. I would send the grocery list on Monday, and we would get together on Friday live there were 72 of us across Canada. Actually, we had, I think, one from the States, because then I opened it to other people. And we had, like, it got quite silly and funny, and we just had a really fun time. So my kiddo and I are in our kitchen, and we're talking about fermenting, and it's a 90-minute class on fermenting. When you join the network, it's a part of what you have access to. You don't have to pay extra for any of this. It's all there, and you go when you want to the piece you want. If you're like, I'll never ferment, Luca, then that's one of the ones you cross off and you say, I'm not doing this month. I don't care. This tells you what to expect, what to look for. There's the video itself. It is 90 minutes. We are in our kitchen. It's pretty funny. Check this out. Let's just like randomly jump to a spot. Our dog was alive at the time. Oh, that's nice, Luca. And there's Eliza chopping her hot peppers because she was fermenting some hot peppers. Like, this is super on the spot, on the fly. So we were here in the kitchen. My husband was in our dining room just behind there, and our friend Jack was there as well. And we were doing the whole class live. We just had a really fun time. So that's all in there. There's my kiddo. This was, 5 years ago. Holy cow. When you're done this class, you click on mark completed. Yeah, that fermentation class is only there for January. So make sure you prioritize that one. So that is all of the content. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so I want to really wrap things up here. In the Good Food Network, you have your administrative stuff here. Scroll through to the live sessions, then the pre-recorded kind of on-demand stuff, if you will, and the written content. One thing to note, all of our live content has replays. The replays will be in the modules themselves. And I want to show you one last thing. Here on the left, you've got overview, modules, chat, sessions, my progress. Chat, you're going to want to use this. Every time you log in, start with the chat. I put content in here that I've uploaded for the week or new stuff to think about. So for example, this morning, I uploaded all the new content. So I let everybody know, look, the new content awaits, jump into it. Then we did this class session last week, top 3 supplements for sleep. So once I had finished recording it, then I let people know that it's available and ready to watch in the module itself. So this chat will give you, I also do a hot what do I call it? Where's the little light bulbs? Oh, there we go. So we've got a hot tip every Wednesday. Watching a class replay video, try it on a computer instead. So the hot tips are usually there as well. There's different kinds of posts through here. There's an image for each to make it easy to find. So use that chat function. You'll also notice up here in this chat bubble, it's going to tell you as well that there's a bunch of new chats available. So you can also access it through there. I prefer to access everything through the program itself because I know where I am. Like, I get my bearings when I'm in the network. So to get back to the network, this button top left, if it has my logo or if it says better up here, practice better is the platform, I guess. Click on this guy, takes you to your homepage, click on programs and get into that Good Food Network to access all of your content. So that's it. That's all for me for this Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining me on January 2nd. I'll be here on Thursday morning for those who are in the network. We will be doing a session on fats and brain health at 7 a.m. If you're in the network, come and join us live if you want. I make sure all your cameras and your microphones are off so you can still be disheveled and unkempt, drinking your coffee after you've had your eggs. Like, join us for breakfast, and nobody will see you. Don't worry. So I wanted to do that so that people who are working a work day, they'll have a time to come and join us live. So come and join us live on Thursday morning at 7 a.m. In the meantime, get your schedule printed up, your worksheet printed up. Make sure you're organizing yourself and you're picking that time every month you're going to jump into it, or every week. What time of the week is going to be dedicated to the network? Set that time aside. It is time that you will be building this content, and it's how you life hack your way through the network so that you can make it work for you. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again in the Good Food Network. Can't wait for you to join us. I will have links after I'm done doing the live thing for how to sign up for the network below if you're watching this on Facebook, below if you're catching the replay on YouTube. And if you can't find anything, you can always find me at lucasimmons.com. Everything's there as well. Contact me, find me. Okay, we'll see you again. Salut et à bientôt.